37-36-1. So they're going to keep a continuing trophy. How about that? Whose idea was that?
It was IMG's.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got all the scores from the last.
All 73 games.
Okay. How about that deal? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. It's nice.
And pick up the football and see how happy he is.
Is that a direct? Am I back at home? That's what my wife tells me to do. Okay, that's legit. That's legit. Thank you. Yeah, it is. Going back to last week, just superb afternoon for football. I mean, just very, very blessed. Beautiful day. Come play in the stadiums like I tell our players. I mean, a palace like that, in an atmosphere like that, in a setting like Baylor has that nobody else has with the tailgating and I-35. Wear the best clothing, uniforms that money can buy, money has bought. It's a privilege to play football at Baylor University. It's a privilege to represent this university. So I thought our guys did it in excellent fashion. I think we played with a lot more energy, a little more intensity, which I think is good. I think we're, amping up at the right time. Got to find a little continuity, with the open dates stuck in there between. But feel good about this week other than the fact that, we're playing a really good football team. Texas team that has always perennially played Baylor extremely tough, over the last 20 years. You could look at the records and doesn't favor well for Baylor. So, we know what we're getting into. We know how they've always played us, and we know the intensity and the attitude and the effort and the intelligence that we're going to have to bring to the game Saturday afternoon at AT&T Stadium. It'll be a very lively atmosphere with a lot of intensity and emotions flying high. A great football game. Two teams, trying to get right in conference.
Coach John Morris, Baylor Radio. How good of a launching pad is that for you to play a game like you did in the win over Rice going into league play?
It's good, John. Realistically, we feel like we did what we should have done through our non-conference schedule. We know just through the importance of conference games and the personnel in conference that things are going to get, a little more important, a little tougher, as we go along. But you got to be who you are, and you got to do what you do, and that's what we're trying to do. And that's who we're trying to be. So from that standpoint, I felt like the team was where we needed it to be. It's the first time I felt it this year, because we have to be a devastatingly dominant football team. That's the way we have to play. And I felt at times the other day that we were that. Now, like I said, our backs, certainly not full of pats. We know we got a long way to go as a football team, but we do have the potential to be pretty good.
John Warner, Waco Trip. All right, Patrick Mahomes, what do you feel like he kind of brings to the table for Tech?
Just a great athlete. A great player, very competitive, playmaker. Everybody's aware of what how he played against us last year, what he's done up to this point this year. Guy's just a really good football player. Some really good quarterbacks in this league. It's great players across the league, but you could take 5 QBs and they could go. They'd be as good as anybody across the nation. So there's some really outstanding players, and he's certainly one of them. To be a true sophomore and perform the way he's performed is really a credit to him and to Texas Tech.
Bryce Cherry, Waco Trib. Art, against Rice, you guys, with the blitz, were able to get some pressure on the quarterback. Some hits, some sacks. I know you mentioned the other day that Tech gets the ball out a lot faster, but how much of a weapon do you see that being for your defense going forward?
It's you live by it, you die by it. If you blitz, you take a chance giving a big play, or you also take a chance on opportunity to get a big sack. So you got to kind of weigh the pros and cons in the situation and the tempo and the momentum, and the score, and everything goes along with making a call. But we certainly have the talent level on the field to be very active defensively. From a blitz standpoint. thought we could, get to Jackson the other day a couple times and did. Had some guys really make some good plays, but a guy that can move around like Mahomes, you blitz and miss, and a lot of times you're manned up behind it. Sometimes you're zone, but if you're manned up, then you got not a lot of eyes on the football, and it gives a chance for a big play from an offensive standpoint. So, it's just all really situational, Bryce. But like I said, we like our personnel, and Coach Bennett and the staff have done a great job, on that side of the ball for the last 5 years.
Coach Tim O'Donnell, News Channel 25. You guys lead the nation in rushing yards per game. 2 parts. What does that say about your offensive line? And secondly, people seem to group you guys into an air raid offense, but that hasn't been the case for at least last few years.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of. I was actually told that this morning. It's a little mind-boggling, honestly, to think when you think of Georgia Tech, Navy. I don't know who some of the predominantly rush teams are across the nation. I know those are 2 of them, but. I think it just falls into place with what we've had happen so far. If we're sitting after 12 games and we're still, in the top 10 rushing, which is kind of what we'd like to be in and year out. I don't know what we finished last year. I doubt if it was top 10, but, it could have been. I don't know. But then that's a pretty good deal. I think it does say a lot about our O-line. You mentioned that. Those guys, are experienced. We felt like we'd be really good up front, both sides of the ball this year. And our O-line played as well the other day as they played this year. So just like we did defensively, I think offensively in the trenches, I think you could say Oakman showed up, Billings showed up, JP showed up, Bo showed up. The offensive line, every one of those guys showed up, all 5 of them. So that's the heart and soul of our team. Like I say, if somebody's talking ugly about me and, I feel threatened, I'm not going to run and go grab a QB or receiver. I'm going to grab me an O-line or D lineman because I like winning. And those are the guys that run your locker room, and they're the guys that got to be men for you on the field.
All right, Max Olson, ESPN. This summer you put the playoff trophy on the T-shirts and locker room door, all that. Why was it important with this group to kind of embrace, championship expectations and that standard?
We've kind of gone back and forth on that a little bit. We might have been a little premature on some of that. I think, if you don't dream big, you're never going to be big. So you gotta have high expectations. I mean, if you'd rather shoot for the stars and miss than shoot for the clouds and hit. So so we're always going to aim high, expect high, and hopefully produce high. But at the same time, you have to understand how you get there, and how you get there is through determination, dedication, discipline, teamwork. The last person you ever play for is yourself, So it's just a lot of things involved to become a championship team. I think, part of our deal on that was just understanding how close you can be and maybe not be there, So, we've done the close stuff a couple of times. It's, now we got to finish. It's hard to finish, as witnessed, but, honestly, right now, we're just trying to win a conference game, to be honest with you, because really this, now the season begins for us, and then we'll see if we get to wear those shirts in December or, we fold them up.
Sean Gagey, News 10 Sports. I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch the end of the Texas Tech TCU game, but do you think with the way that ended that it could be an advantage for you guys that maybe they're a little exhausted mentally and physically, or an advantage for them in the fact that, they're angry and they don't want to lose that way again, kind of down into the wire like that?
I've been in both those scenarios. We could say, we won a pretty decent game last year and then we go not win the next week, coming off a big win. Coming off and not winning, and then come back the next week and play pretty decent, win 60-14. It's just kind of depends on the makeup of your team. Every game, every week's a new week. So you gotta let it go, good or bad, because there's something else out there waiting on you. If you're not ready for it, you're not going to be able to perform at the level you need to be to have a chance to win. So I really don't expect that to have any bearing on our game this weekend, just like, what we did against Rice will have no bearing on the game.
Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider. Art, can you talk about the impact that Taylor Young made coming back from his injury? And also Jay Lee, the way he's playing now, is this what you expected out of him?
You know, Taylor's just he's an inspiring guy. I mean, he's instinctive, he's inspiring, he's a winner, he's a champion, and he's a motivator. And when he's on the field, we're better. You know, and that's just, some people are like that. You know, they just bring everybody else's level up. And he does that, you know, and I think that was part of the reason we were better on defense the other day, just because T.Y. is on the field, and T.Y. is a happy football player. You know, he's a dynamic player on the field, and people get excited. And, you know, I've never seen somebody run fast, you know, in a bad mood. You know, so, I mean, everybody's, you know, they're excited. They're playing fast, and they're happy. So that's a big deal. Jay Lee, you know, we expect a lot out of Jay Lee. You know, I mean, you know, as he's been targeted, he's produced. You know, he only had 2 catches the other night, 2 big ones back to back. You know, we only completed 12 passes. You know, so I think that part of our game is going to come around as we are able to extend ourselves offensively in football games, which will allow some of these guys to get more touches and more production. But, yeah, up to this point, he's been extremely productive with the amount of touches that he's been afforded.
Hey, Art, Suzanne Halliburton with the Statesman in Austin. I have 2 questions. I've been waiting patiently. The first one, with you all's running game, as pointed out, #1 in the country, but Tech also has a running back who gained 188 yards last week. How much different are y'all's offenses now, or how much different do you think Tech will be as opposed to what you've seen in the past with Mahomes being able to scramble and DeAndre Washington?
Okay, that's the first question. Thank you for going one at a time. Yeah, I mean, because
Yes.
I almost lost the Jay Lee deal there for a second. Yeah, I mean, Washington's a great back. You know, it's not like all of a sudden he jumped out and, you know, Tech's got this back. It's really good. You know, we know about him. You had the dual threat of Mahomes being able to zone read you a little bit, and it just adds another dimension to him offensively. I think Tech has run the ball, you know, over the last, you know, I'd say 16 to 20 games, you know, as well as they have over the last decade. So that's a little different look for them and for us as an opponent. So it does. I mean, it creates, you know, more areas of concern, I guess, from a defense standpoint. Playing their offense, you got to make sure you cover it all. But they're still going to throw the football. I mean, if they're, you know, laying money down on where they're going to throw for more yards or rush for more yards, you know, day in and day out, Cliff's putting his money on the throw.
And speaking of throwing, my second question on Seth, how much better was his game against Rice as the first 2 games he had this year?
I think he was a lot more alert, you know, really more focused, play in and play out. You know, really, I think he only had 2 bad plays out of 46. He only had 46 plays. And that's the whole deal. I mean, the whole deal is to stay in the moment, you know, with him. He's got a tremendous amount of talent. And, you know, a lot of times I've never had this problem, you know, either intellectually or physically, but a lot of times people that are gifted in some areas lack in focus sometimes. I've noticed through the years of coaching a lot of players that are extremely gifted and extremely intellectual also. It's hard to keep them motivated. So I think that's a thing that we're working on with him, and he's working on to make him understand every play is a play of the game. And I was really, really, you know, impressed with how he approached the game the other day. Thought he was really sharp. He's going to have to play that way for us to have a chance to win.
Nick Anazales, KC, and Coach, sticking with the offense. Just talk about how well-balanced you guys are, the amount of rushing yards you guys have, the amount of passing yards you guys have, literally pretty much dead even. They can't guard you if they try to, I guess, guard you stack you with the pass. You can rush and vice versa. How much pride are you taking to be a very well-balanced offense?
You know, I think, and I don't know for sure, but I think if you'd look over the last decade or so, you know, I would hope that it would be pretty much that scenario. I think that we've always rushed the ball extremely well and thrown it, you know, decently through the years. You know, you got to have a great O-line. You got to have a QB that makes good decisions. You got to have, you know, skilled players at the running back and outside and inside receiver position that can make plays in space also, and which we've been fortunate enough to have. So that's something that you know, we always kind of hang our hat on is we need to get dirty. We can get dirty. You know, if it's 3rd and 1, we'd like to think we can make 1.5. And that's something that, we've always talked to our players about, and they take a lot of personal pride in being able to produce in critical situations running the football.
Coach, you really showcased Corey's versatility the other night with all the things he did. How valuable is that to have one guy that can do so many things so well?
He's good. He is dynamic, and there's more in the tank. And that's the exciting part. We're not running the anchor leg yet. We're still just rounding the first curve. So there's a lot more out there that we feel like he's going to be able to contribute and help our football team win. But he's an extremely gifted person athletically that has a great passion for being the best on the field, which bodes well when you have talent to back it up.
Coach Jessica.
Dave's asking if Corey was really highly sought coming out of high school. Yes, he was, Dave. He was a guy that a lot of people projected as a DB, a cornerback, which he could be a great cornerback. But he was a person that was very highly recruited. And, we probably got him because of Kendall Wright, quite honestly, because Kendall had a great career here, and he kind of saw himself in Kendall's, style and image. Yes, ma'am.
Coach Jessica with KCN. You guys had a little bit of issue with penalties. It didn't cost you against Rice or against any of these other two teams that you've played, but against Texas Tech, those penalties could cost you. How do you plan on kind of cleaning that up in practice?
Well, they always cost you, and they have cost us dearly, through the years, just like everybody else, that gets penalties. They always cost you, we work on it by trying to not do anything that's, not football related. If you hold, you try not to hold. If you hit somebody late, then that's a little not football related. So you try to make sure that the penalties that do exist are penalties that are associated with the game of football. And, we're not the best at it, but, we're not trying to sit around and watch the clock move either. We're going to play football, and the more you play, the more chances potentially that you could have a penalty thrown on you. And that's just the way we play.
Let's go with one more question.
They have been dearly costly to us. I can relate back to January the 1st where we had an offensive face mask penalty called on us by a wideout, which is highly unusual, but potentially kept us from winning the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, Art, just going forward, what questions do you still have about this team? What do they still need to prove to you?
I think cohesiveness, consistency, predictability, and, I kind of mentioned a while ago about the intellectual, physical part of people, maybe not always playing up to their ability level. Because we do have some really good players, and, it's my job to make sure they're motivated individually and collectively as a team to be dominant, and devastatingly dominant, to where if you play, you're trying to be the best football player in America, and you're trying to be the best team in America. And so, that's my job, and it's our players' job to perform at that level, play in and play out. But I do see potentially the chance to have a football team that could, have a chance to three-peat as a Big 12 champion, which has only happened once. And since the league started in '96, Oklahoma, I think, did it 6 through 8 or something. Thank y'all very much. Appreciate it.